Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. This week there's been a lot of reading and some things have already featured in videos that have come out, some are featuring in videos coming out this week and others will be held off until closer to a release date. So there's been a bit going on, but it is the first full reading week in September. It's going great so far. A couple of things I want to mention. You will have seen me talk about the last two books in the Married Entry series by Leroy K. Hamilton. There is a vlog for this series. So they were completed this week, as well as Running Wild by K.A. Tucker, which was another reread for me. And that video is coming out hopefully on Wednesday or Friday, maybe. We'll see when it gets edited. This was my annotation book for the month, which leaves me with, how many things? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 other things to talk about. Some of which are manga because it is 30 and 30 and I am trying to read through the manga that I have on my Kindle app and also trying to get through some other bits and pieces. So the first two books that I want to mention are actually part of a read-along that I'm joining in on. I was supposed to read the first book for this month. I've actually read the first two and I'm currently partway through the third book, and that is the Queen's Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. And this is a readathon being hosted by Heather and some very lovely people. And I can't remember if I talked about The Thief last week, but I thought regardless, I'm going to talk about it collectively in this one since I am now sort of further into the series. This is a young adult political fantasy series and it's kind of difficult to talk about it in any great detail without spoiling it because each of these books ends off with a twist. And sometimes you see part of it coming or you know that something is going on in the background, but you don't know quite what it is. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm listening to all of these books on audio through my Libby app. So the first book is The Thief. The second book is The Queen of Attolia, and I'm currently reading The King of Attolia. In The Thief, we meet Jen, who is a prisoner, and he has just been freed from prison because he is tasked with helping to steal a magical artifact to help secure another ruler's hand in marriage to another ruler, so like a political marriage. And all along the way, as all of these characters are traveling to where they need to be in order to pull off this heist, we're learning more about the world, the political situation, the gods and goddesses of this world through stories. The first half of The Thief is quite a slow moving story. It's very much a travel story and there's a lot of talking going on, whereas the second half is pretty full with things happening. So it does move a little bit quicker than the first half. And I really can't talk about the second and third book because it kind of gives away the twist for book one. This is a series where you have to pay attention to the characters because not everyone is who they seem. As the rest of the books begin to explore the political connections that are made, the implications of the first book, and then also the implications of the second book into the third book. It's really fascinating and we get to meet more characters and expand the world a little bit, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So I know that there will be a live show talking about The Thief. I don't think it's in a time zone that I can attend live, but I will be watching it back and, you know, throwing my thoughts into the comments because it's a book series where you need a space to talk spoilers, and I don't think this video is quite where I need to do that. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, given that it is a YA political fantasy story, and I have to give full credit to Heather, who just made me want to pick it up. So thanks, Heather. Then we move into Forbidden Puckboy, which I received a review copy of. This doesn't come out till later this month, and I had such a great time with this one. It is about Easton, who is a hockey player. He is a middle child of 3 hockey playing brothers. His older brother plays on the same team as him, and he feels a little bit under pressure from his older brother, who is very fiercely protective of him and his younger sibling, and is constantly trying to protect him and, you know, all of that kind of business, which frankly, Easton's older brother annoyed me a lot, but I also understood where he was coming from in that he's loyal to his family and he wants to make sure that everyone is safe and everyone's career is secure. And Easton falls for his older brother's best friend, Knox, who happens to be a referee. Knox has been a referee for the PWHL and is trying to break into the NHL as a referee. And he gets that opportunity throughout this book, starting with an AHL contract. I loved this story because both of the main characters have been attracted to each other for a long time. However, there's a tiny age gap, which had they pursued anything when they were younger would have been more significant than it is now when they're in their mid to late 20s, which is also true and a really good thing to explore. There is also that delicate balancing act of feeling like you're betraying somebody else, well, in this case Easton's brother and Knox's best friend, but also going in search of your own happiness, which of course is then complicated by the fact that both of them have careers that see them traveling constantly and not being able to spend time together. And so that's where the conflict in the story comes in, is not knowing whether or not they can make that work, and whether it's fair to expect the other person to wait for them when they might only see each other for significant periods of time over the summer break. I really, really enjoy this one. It has all the humor and the fun. And even though it does, you know, the relationship goes through some angsty bits, the story itself is still fairly light, as in Finley and Saxon James, and in particular the Puckboy series always is. Highly, highly enjoyed it. Can't wait for it to be released and to come out so that I can add it to my physical collection, because I love this series so much. All right, then moving into some manga / webtoon / graphic novel things that I've been reading. I read Pupposites Attract Volume 1. This one was a first volume of manga that I requested on NetGalley. It's a super cute little story. Like, it's not groundbreaking, but it was definitely adorable. It's about two dog owners who meet while out walking their dogs. And the whole idea behind this is this idea of opposites attract. So our female protagonist is a tiny little woman, but she has a huge big dog, and she's super confident and really sure of herself and knows what she wants. And then you have our male protagonist, who is a big guy. He's tall, he looks imposing, but he is the most cinnamon roll you will ever meet. And he has a tiny little fluffy thing of a dog who basically rules him, and he's a firefighter. Oh, and she's a teacher. And it's about them meeting each other and beginning to fall for one another, being complete opposites and sort of admiring the traits in the other person that the other feels like they don't have. And it's just kind of adorable, and the dogs are just adorable. So if you like dogs and you just want something that's fun and light and easy to read, I would go with this one. It's a good one to read as a digital manga. I also read volumes 2, 3, and 4 of On or Off. This is a Korean webtoon, I believe, or it's set in Korea. Webtoon that has been turned into graphic novel form. It is an age gap workplace romance, kind of has a forbidden element to it in that sense, between two men. And in the first volume, their relationship got off to a bit of a rough start, and their first encounter, which is when the younger male protagonist is pitching his startup company's game to a bigger corporation for their backing, goes horribly wrong. And then I think he meets the director again later, and he's trying to repitch it, but they end up in bed. And they have this one night stand, and there is a bit of dubcon in that first volume. And then they have to work together. It's a complex relationship because one of them only does one night stands, the other one is falling for the other. And then in 2, 3, and 4, they actually begin to realize that they have actual feelings, and that maybe this is something they can pursue, but maybe it has to be once the contract is done between the startup company and the main company. It's very, very explicit on page, so just be aware of that. But there's also this really cool element of the startup company and the other people that work there, and how they're all just students and they're just starting out in here, and they're not the most business savvy people out there ever. They're just deeply passionate about their project, and they're really fun and adorable, and it's a really cute little gang of these students who are just starting to get their foot into this world. I'm enjoying the series, and the final, or the Volume 4 left off on a place where I'm like, oh no, we finally just got to a happy place, and now we've got our next little hurdle. So we'll see. I'll hopefully read that sooner rather than later. I also read Birds of Shangri-La Volume 3, which is another manga that I have been slowly reading when I get a chance. It's another queer story. It's set on an island where it's still safe to have brothels and sex work in place, and the Birds of Shangri-La belong to a brothel, and it's the relationship between one of the sex workers and one of the guys that's there for preparation. And he is straight, or he says he's straight. He begins to have real feelings for the guy that he's working with. But the only problem is that he's not supposed to fall for anyone that works there. And that becomes very, very complicated. And there is the very real threat of it seeing both of them expelled from Shangri-La. This one is fairly explicit, maybe not as much as On or Off in terms of on-page depiction, but yeah, it's an interesting series, and I'm very intrigued to see what continues to happen in the series, because there's also the threat of politics getting involved and shutting down Shangri-La, because essentially they're trying to tighten up on their morality kind of stuff, as governments always do, and looking at outlawing sex work. So I'm kind of intrigued by that political plot that's sort of going on in the background as well. I also read The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill. This is a really gorgeous graphic novel. So I have loved everything by Kay O'Neill in the past. I've tried to read as much of their back catalogue as I can. This one I hadn't realised was out, and I'd seen Ashley talk about it when she was talking about the Tea Dragon Society, which is one of my favourites. And so this is about Anya, who has just become a moth keeper. And in this world, the moon moths are really, really important. It's an interesting world because you have communities who are always awake during the nighttime and other communities that are awake during the day, and they never really cross or interact with one another. But the moon moths only come out at night, and they need to be safely home before the sun rises, otherwise it can be really dangerous for them. But being a moth keeper is a really lonely job. You're out by yourself all the time. You're kind of following them and keeping an eye on the moths and then helping them to return home. And so you spend long stretches away from the people that you know. And Anya has been trying to, preparing for this for a very long time, and she's really excited about it, but it also does have an impact on her because it's lonely. You're in the dark all the time, and she begins to dream of, being in the sun. And this causes some complications to occur when one night she's not as quick to help the moths get back. And then she has to realize that she can ask for help and that people are willing to support her. And it also forces the rest of her village to realize that there's a lot of pressure that's placed on moth keepers. It's really lovely. The colors in this book, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful and fun. It has that magical whimsy that all of Kay O'Neill's work does, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's really cool because this is one I know I can take into work. There's nothing in it that's inappropriate for my students, and I've got some really keen graphic novel readers at the moment, which is amazing. A lot of them are girls, which previously that's been a struggle I've had with my students, is to get girls interested in graphic novels, and they're really loving them at the moment, so I think they'll love this one.
Hi everyone. So it is editing Steffi, clearly. When is it not? I filmed originally my review of Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. And I've decided not to include it in here because I struggled with my review, not because it's a bad book, but just because of there's certain things I want to say about it. And I struggled a little bit in my review earlier. So I'm going to sit on it again for a week. It does come out this week. As I said, I enjoyed it, but I feel like this is going to be a controversial one and I need some more time to sit on it. Stay tuned. That one will come in the next wrap up.
And so that is my reading for the week. Lots of fun things, lots of thought-provoking things. My kind of reading week. I'd love to know if you've read any of these books or manga, and if you're planning on picking anything up. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't leave a comment, feel free to leave any kind of dog emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.